was waiting to find someone hanging off the edge. This is awful. It really is. It looks like they got hit hard. And to think there were casualties. You know, the Imperial Army isn't going to sit and twiddle their thumbs after suffering an attack like this. They have their image to uphold after all. Hey, it looks like most of the damage is concentrated on the south side of the building. You think whoever carried out the attack could have done it from the Highlands? It seems very likely. But where on the plains could they launch an attack like that from? I can't talk. Well, the Highlands are incredibly vast, and we need some kind of clue to even know where to start looking. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to find something here that'll point us in the right direction. Okay, so we did that piece of information. And then it's pointing over here. Huh, is this? What's up, Elisa? Is there something unusual about that scrap of metal? Yeah, it looks like an unexploded bomb. Might not be safe. So it looks like to me. I knew it. This is a mortar shell manufactured by the Rhineford Company. That's her family's company. And her last name is Rhineford. Are you sure? Yeah, I've seen them before. On the assembly line. There are only a couple models capable of firing this kind of shell. That would suggest that the mortar used to fire it was also made by the Rhineford Company. But if we assume that's true, it seems much less likely that the Republic was responsible. True, why would the Republican Army use a weapon made in the Empire? It doesn't make much sense to me. Even if we account for deception, it seems unlikely that Calvard would go this far to conceal their involvement. Though considering the stakes, we can't entirely rule out the possibility. Still, this might prove to be an important clue to solving this mystery. I think that's all the info we can gather here. I think so too. Now we need to analyze what we've learned. First, we should establish a good picture of what was happening when the attack occurred. That seems the best place to start. So, first of all, what time did the actual attack on the watchtower happen? That's why when Rose is here, I have the command that she puts in saying, please give Trixie a moment. It's better brain here. Alright, so we know it started around 3 a.m. It was 3 a.m. Yes, that's what the guard told us. But that wasn't all that was going on then. That's right, the Republican Army's base also came under attack. And according to the Lieutenant General, they suffered even greater damage than what happened here. I think we can safely discount the possibility that the Republican Army bombed their own forces then. But there's no evidence that the Imperial Army launched an attack either. All we know is that both attacks happened and both sides took heavy damage. However, as Elisa said, we have no evidence to suggest that either side was responsible. If we accept that as fact, the most likely scenario is that the responsibility lies with another party entirely. Exactly. So you think a third party is working behind the scenes to provoke both countries into starting a war? Tensions between the Empire and the Republic are always high. But compared to other areas of similar political value, the Nord Highlands have always been peaceful. I can conceive of no reason either country would have decided to break that peace last night. I agree. If anything, it seems that the negatives would outweigh the positives for both parties. If this were Crossbell, it might be a different story. But here, now that you mention it, we found something else odd about the attack on the watchtower, didn't we? Something that seems to point to a third party's involvement. Something else odd about the attack on the watchtower? I bet she's referring to this. Well, we already know the time. And we know the weapon that was used, theoretically. And I would think we would know the damage because we're standing on most of it. Let's do this. You're talking about the mortars used for the attack, right? Exactly. It looks like the orbital mortars they used in the attack were an old Rhineford model. And I, for one, find it pretty unlikely that the Republican Army is packing Erebonian-made weapons. Indeed, they have little reason to be, considering the Republic has its own major orbital technology manufacturer. The Verne Company, as I recall. Yeah, the Verne Company is responsible for manufacturing most of the arms used by the Republican Army. Then there's the fact that the mortar used here is old. The Imperial Army hasn't used this model for years. I've heard that the military surplus sometimes makes its way onto the black market and ends up in the hands of mercenaries. Knowing that, it seems unlikely that either army chose to use it to cover their tracks. Quite. However, there's a far more pressing question we need to answer. What do you mean? I know where you're going. We need to know where the attack was launched from in the first place. That's going to be difficult to work out. But without that vital detail, all our speculation thus far is for naught. If we intend to avert a war, we need more than speculation. We need conclusive evidence. Agreed. But the Highlands are far too vast to just strike out searching blindly, especially with the Lieutenant General's deadline rapidly approaching. Actually, we may not have to start our search blind. If Elisa and Gaius will lend me a hand, I may be able to help. Huh? What do you have in mind? If I can factor the location of the damage together with the speed and trajectory of the mortar shells, and then take into account the Highlands winds, I may be able to estimate the area from which the mortar was fired. Potentially, anyway. Are you serious? It sounds easier said than done. I'll do what I can. Are you familiar with the specifics of the shell that was used? I think so. It's an old model, but I should be able to give you some rough data. That should be plenty. Anyway, let's have another look at those damaged areas and start our calculations. Please, come with me, everyone. Right. AP increased by 1. Alright, I think I've calculated a rough location. I believe the mortar was fired from a location to the south of here. Using the map as a reference point, that means it was likely launched from somewhere in this area. Okay. And according to my calculations, the launch site shouldn't be too far from here. Wow, I can't believe we managed to work that out. That's well beyond the level of mathematics we cover in class. I'll enjoy watching Regnitz really sweat it out trying to best you on our next midterm. Just glad he's not here so I don't have to listen to him be such a jackass all the time. Just a little applied physics. I couldn't have done it without Elisa and Gaius' help. It looks as if we've got a nice big piece of the puzzle right in our hands. Sure seems like it. Let's take off and start looking. Right. Reen and the others reported their findings to the soldier in charge and asked him to relay the intel to the Zender Gate. Afterward, they set out on horseback to begin their search. Okay, so we're back on our horses. Alright, let's start looking for where the mortar was actually fired from. If what Emma calculated is correct, it should have been fired from a point south of the watchtower. And most likely from a point that's easy to overlook, so that it's not found out. Let's see if we can find anywhere that fits that description. We'll likely need to rely on the map to help us. I wonder if the culprit could still be there. Regardless, we should see what we can find.